Steven has a way of ending things that is so hopeful and so beautiful in every one of his movies.
At what point does the excitement of getting cast in a Steven Spielberg movie meet up with the terrifying pressure of playing him in what is essentially an autobiography?
When I show up, I'm folding every scene I'm in, so to make sure what I have to prepare for, folding every page, and then I just stop folding it because it dawns on me that I'm going to be in every minute of the movie afterwards, and that was very weird. Nobody told me that. Yeah, I think that's when it was, oh man, this is a big responsibility. And I think that's when the big fear happened, but then that's when the work happened too.
I really also enjoyed the process on this film. It never kind of stopped learning, moving, changing, shifting. And I think part of that was what Steven was searching for in the material, and Steven and Tony talking and rewriting stuff, and us, all coming together. So that was always evolving, including where maybe Paul, meets Bert, meets Arnold too.
I'm one of those guys that said, can't we, no, don't do it with him. He'll know a little bit better. So my trust was perfect. I mean, absolutely not only necessary, but if you were there, I'm sure you would trust this guy, because not only does he know what he's talking about, it's his family and it's his person, right? So he owned the character and then said to me, would you share him with me? I mean, that's not what he said, but I can understand it. And I thought, oh, move you. How's that? Okay, make you feel something about something that you wrote. And a man you knew, tell me about him. No. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is an actor's dream.
Day to day, he's so entirely in the moment. So he's really responding to, even though these are his parents, he hasn't laid out a plan for you to follow in order to be them and to please him. He is completely in the moment and responding to what's happening in front of him. And so each take changes what he thinks he wants or what he wants you to try. And then you find yourself in completely new territory because you're somewhere that you haven't planned.
Everything that happens to Sammy happened to Steven. And, it was him and Tony organized it in a way to write a script and to tell the story of a movie and using literary devices, whatever they do. But everything happened to him. And so I just wanted to ask him everything about his life and what it was like for him growing up. And I could really just understand what's going through his head, therefore the character. And and half the times he would just want me to figure out. But then we just talk about it, and he'd tell me stories of what it was like for him growing up in Arizona with his sisters, his parents, his uncle, his whole perspective on life in the world. That's what I was really after, and that helped me a lot.
I just dove right into it. It was a personal journey we were being invited to go on, so it didn't seem, inappropriate to ask pretty personal questions, and I wanted to really dive into the specifics of the dynamics, especially as we were playing different scenes, really kind of at least having an internal understanding of where are we in this journey, in this scene, you know what I mean? And so it really and he really seemed to welcome it, but also at the same time he made it very clear that he doesn't love talking to the actress about the scene. So I would actually talk to Tony a lot, Tony, because also what's real doesn't matter, it's more for the movie, so he was more than happy. Me and I would talk to Tony for hours and hours and hours, and he loved to talk about the scenes. And Steven was more. I asked him from the get-go, and he was like, "I don't love to talk to the actors about the scenes." So I was like, "Okay, won't do that." Yeah.
Knowing you as someone who likes to work loose and with a lot of improv, I'm curious just to what degree you had to adjust the way that you worked on this movie, especially knowing that Tony Kushner and Steven Spielberg wrote this essentially for you.
I was in a movie Aaron Sorkin wrote. Not a lot of improvisation on those sets, I can confidently say. Probably less than on this one, which did not have much, but it's honestly, it's a pleasure. It's in a way the alleviation of a responsibility to not be asked to improvise and to just be told to say what is written and say it as though it's improvised, but to not actually improvise it, And when it's written by Steven Spielberg and Tony Kushner, it's a lot easier to do that, And often, I think people are drawn to improv because it is at times making up for a lack of writing, which is not why we ever did it, but I think that at times is why people feel as though they need to add stuff. But this was written very conversationally and very naturalistically, and was a pleasure to say.
You're only in 2 scenes, but the bombastic nature of the character, plus just the lesson that he imparts to Sammy.
I'm sorry, but I'm in 3.
Sorry, you're in a few scenes.
There's the beginning, the middle, and the end.
But I am curious just how kind of knowing the impression that Uncle Boris is going to leave on Sammy. Yeah. How does that ultimately impact your performance and your approach to the character?
Well, it becomes the challenge to begin with, right? Why would you do it that way? Why, it's almost like being asked to play a part that you don't really know how it's going to end in the other guy. And that's a question that went on forever, So this man was necessarily brought in the middle of a family situation to make this boy understand who he's going to be, right? Even if he doesn't know it. And if you looked at the face of poor Gabriel LaBelle, if you looked at his face, you would never think it was going to work. It was like the firing squad was in his room. That's the part I really love so much. It's almost hilarious, I'm going to dance in front of your face until you get it. You know what I mean? And I was hoping that Steven would go along with that much energy, and he's going like this. Yeah. I loved it.
To what level did you get the opportunity to talk director to director with Steven Spielberg? And did this have an impact on you as far as just wanting to jump back into directing a feature film yourself?
What's funny is early in my career, the first times I met with Steve was as a writer. I was a much more I was kind of more sought out as a writer than an actor. When I was first going on meetings with people like Steven, and so, and that's what's really nice is I think a lot of these people that I've known, I've known him a long time in some capacity, kind of know me as someone who works more behind the scenes than in front of them often, So it was incredibly instructional, and he was outwardly, articulating his process, why he was doing it. And I would ask him a million questions. I would just bombard him with questions about why we were doing what we were doing. Why'd you do that? Why'd you move the shot there? Why'd you decide to do that? It was not something I was going to squander, the opportunity to really absorb as much as I could. From him and the crew and Rick Carter and Janusz. I got to work with him on another film, but so I kind of remained friends with him over the years. But just really getting to ask everyone a million questions all day. It was really fun, and it was great working. It's a very engaged set. Sometimes you work on a set and it feels like the movie is one of several things that is happening. That set is not like that. Every conversation's about the movie that's taking place, basically, which I like.
He's been working with a lot of the same crew for a very long time, and they were saying to me that this was different than any other one. So I think we were, on a special one, yeah.
What was your favorite part?